Hi, I'm Didable. I'm here to explain how video games are actually really powerful as a form of creativity. It's going to be a really ranty video, so here I'll write a quick summary on the main points of why they're so powerful and should be pursued more as an art form. Basically, video games are experiences. In comparison to other things, they are all seen in third person or from the perspective of an outsider. Even if a book or movie tells a story in the first person perspective, no matter what, you will always be an outsider listening to a narrative in first person, and you are not experiencing it in first person. To me, video games are what gave me confidence when I needed it most. Not from addiction or escapism, but because it put me through situations and had me push through them myself. When people think of video games, they just think of the over-the-top, violent, and offensive games like Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Fortnite. They disregard all other games and base all of games by the ones that are most exposed. It's understandable, and we all tend to just take things at face value without delving deeper, but it's this kind of bias that keeps people from opening up to new ideas and from accepting different harmless ones. Before you label something, try and look more into it before coming to a conclusion. Now, I want to point out what video games can do in hopes that people will try to play some and gain an appreciation and understanding. First, I want to start on the importance of the story in games and how they're different to other arts. With other things, they have a target audience they're trying to reach, from their background, experiences, identity, anything like that. But with video games, you don't really need that. Sure, there's some demographic they go for, but it's more broad because when it comes to the story, they're able to set it up to help you connect with your character and the story. There are two types of protagonists. Silent protagonists, for a clean slate into the world, and an actual character. There are three ways of presenting a silent protagonist. You can either go about with the presentation, action, or creation. In System Shock, you relate with a hacker with both you and him both sitting at a computer as the game starts, giving you a simple but effective connection. So from then on, any actions you take as a player can be thought of directly as the actions of the hacker. Without doing anything but show an intro animation, the game presents the hacker as you are one and the same person. In Half-Life, you are tasked with a job to put a gem into a giant machine. But by doing this, you cause a catastrophe within the facility. As you play the game, you see all the scientists and security guards die all around you, and you're stuck with the thought, I caused all of this. In the case of Half-Life, you are the one who caused the catastrophe. The setting isn't as relatable since we don't all work at a highly classified facility, but the gameplay makes us face the consequences of our own actions. Then there's a Western RPG protagonist. In this case, you have a creator-creation connection. Since you make the character how you want them to be, it's the same as anything else you've made in your life. Making your first Lego tower, first food dish, first paper airplane. You have a close feeling to those objects, like your character. Now with the animation boom of recent years, we've been getting more and more fleshed out stories in video games. Before, they could just be ignored, but now the games are centered around them. With more bold stories, come more detail in them, so you need an actual protagonist to talk and act. With other arts, they usually have to focus on the target audience, but with video games, it's not as important. As long as you're old enough for the game, you should be good to go because the game will put you through the necessary experiences the protagonist goes through and enough information about them for you to appreciate the story more. In The Walking Dead, you're given the role of Lee, a murderer trying to survive the zombie apocalypse while protecting Clem. You don't need to be there for the murder, that would overload you too fast. All it needed to do was give the backstory with a talk with the policeman, and you're filled in on what you need. Though there's not much gameplay, Lee has his own personality and takes actions on his own volition. You still decide his actions and way of talking with people, as well as make the big decisions of life and death. Lee leads you through the story, but you decide how he goes about his actions, creating a partnership and connection with him. In The Last of Us, you are shown Joel, his life before the apocalypse, and Desire dying. Not a very broad connection, since most of us haven't had a close loved one die in our arms like that, and we don't have much connection with either of them since the story just begun. But it does establish an understanding, at least with how Joel is and how it brings him to develop and change. Regardless, we both grow with him from not caring about Ellie to wanting to protect her from everything. A very universally standard way of presenting a story. Life before the story, then during. The strength video games have with presenting the story is action, whether it be taking down an enemy or causing national devastation. Every action we take is seen, and we feel that impact of our decision, which ties into gameplay. The defining trait that separates games from any other creative medium, as opposed to other things, as I've said before, this time you're not an outsider, but a participator. You don't watch someone get the touchdown, you do. You don't read about someone slaying the dragon, you do. You don't watch someone run from a monster, you do. It is used to give people an experience they would never be able to have. Whether it be fun, relaxing, scary, or stressful, gameplay can help make experiences more accessible for people who'd never be able to experience them. A jack-of-all-trades parkourist plumber, indoor bombing fight to the death, mentally handicapped post-nuclear wasteland hero, demigod-slaying catman, or little girl capitalist. A big key thing for video games is that it's not limited to just one style. There are many genres to choose from, and within those genres are many styles to go about the genre. Is Minecraft too calm? Maybe try Terraria. Is Tetris too intense? Maybe try Peggle. Is Mario 64 too unforgiving? Maybe try A Hat in Time. Is Final Fantasy too unengaging? Maybe try Paper Mario. Is Counter-Strike too recoily? Maybe try Unreal Tournament. With all the different styles, different intensities, and different traits of each individual game, there is an endless way of making a game unique, and many games out there to choose from to fit your liking. Video games provide a new life to live that can never be gone through within real life. Even if there is no story, those actions you take are what invests you in the game. If you've ever played a mobile game or a Facebook game, you'd understand the feeling. The simple act of progressing and your own initiative in a game invests us and helps motivate us to keep pushing forward and to try our best. Which then ties into game and level design. Now the game and level design in the game is very important. The most important in the game, no matter what. Even if something lacks about all gameplay, the way it gets you to play through is what's important. Firstly, game design. It is most important for your audience to enjoy your game. To get gameplay that balances opposing forces, while not lacking too much of it, this is the standard for most cases, unless they're special. The best example for this is Tetris. Each line you clear brings the level up. At the start, it's really boring, and you barely feel the intensity. At a certain point you get to, you'll feel the sweet spot where you comfortably stack blocks neat and orderly, with a time limit just enough to excite you, and not too much to stress you. Once you've progressed enough though, the speed will be very difficult for you to manage, and you try to adjust your style of play to keep from topping out. This difficulty is low enough, but expected because of the progression from previous levels. You expect the upcoming difficulty, and you adjust to it. Once you game over, the progression you've made is lost, and all your points are gone. That pride in your score makes you want to come back and invest again. That harmonious challenge keeps you coming back and to try and challenge yourself to keep pushing and getting farther. And the best part of this design is the simple complexity. It is a simple concept of stacking blocks neat and orderly, but also complex enough for different techniques and build styles to be done. The simplicity helps make the game easy for anyone to pick up and play, so anyone can understand it. The complexity is a depth you realize once you play after a while. Now for level design. To know good level design, you need to be able to anticipate the actions of the player. When a playtester plays the game, sure, they may make a problem you can directly see, but to make a solution is a very open-ended thing. The pursuit of giving a player enough freedom to enjoy, not too much to overwhelm, and not too little to constrain, is a big task with how many possibilities that creates. But when it comes to level-based games, the golden rule is to teach, then test. In a platformer, if you're going to introduce a new mechanic or obstacle, you first show it off with giving the player little to no risk of death or injury. In Super Mario Bros., because many players are going to be new to games, the whole first level is made to teach the player how to play. When you first start, the Goomba is shown to look unfriendly for you to know to avoid it. With no obstacles in the way, the player will have time to experiment while it slowly comes towards you. Enough time for you to learn to jump. To teach you can jump higher, the pipes get higher to show that the longer you hold, the higher you go. Until you learn this, it will keep you from progressing so you're not short hopping throughout the game. Later, when the water level is introduced, there is a tall piece of coral that you can't swim above with one tap, and holding doesn't help either. So you decide to mash the button and you start swimming. All this with the safety of the start, giving you the opportunity to learn how to move without the risk. Now those are just simple teaching examples. When it comes to more open-ended games, there's a lot more to take into consideration. One example is in Super Metroid. You are shown a unique looking door with a jump you just can't make, so you leave an unsatisfied feeling. Later on, you get to the jump boots and jump out of the high wall they put behind you. From that high jump, you are reminded of the door again and rush back to it, eager to unveil its secrets. This tease and remind design choice is a way to guide the player towards the most important path. The designers knew how to grab the attention of the player, they knew how to remind the player of a previous room, and they knew how to keep the player from getting lost. 3 problems solved in one little room. This is one of many examples in Super Metroid, which is one of the greatest examples of game design. Now in another example, Deus Ex, you are put on Liberty Island, and you need to get into the statue. By the way the level is designed, while you go through the level, you will stumble upon UNATCO HQ to talk with everyone there to fill you in more on the situation and the world. But by chance, if you're like me, you might go the other way. Even with that, I eventually got to UNATCO HQ. The way the level is designed, the island being a big circle, it makes it that you will eventually pass by HQ, so you don't have to miss anything it has to show at the beginning, as well as the docks around the other side. By the end of the level, you will need to get back to HQ. Because the level is somewhat big, you would get lost trying to find it, but since it already showed you at the start, you know how to go straight forward to it and haven't missed anything important in the level. Now for my final example, System Shock. It is an old game with odd mechanics and things you need to learn to move on with the game. The way the first level is designed is a circle too, giving you a chance to explore the whole level full circle before continuing. While exploring, you'll encounter some things along the way that will pop and make you notice and learn. You first get out and you face the easiest enemy, giving you a feel of how to fight in the game. Around a few corners, you'll face a cyborg drone. The cyborg drone is a pretty tough enemy put within the first 5 minutes of the game, and unless you fully rush him, he will probably kill you. And on the other side of the pillar is a hopper, which is even tougher. Though they would usually kill or seriously injure the player, it's still early enough to just start over. Even if you don't die, you are shown right away where to heal. The drone and hopper are telling you to be more careful with corners, and the hopper is telling you that some weapons are too weak for stronger enemies. It's mentally preparing the player for the encounters ahead of time, because they're only gonna get worse. Now later on, there's a big gap you need to cross, but there's this weird square on a slope. You go press it, and you examine it. It's a puzzle that you can solve. So you solve it, and a bridge forms for you. While you circle back to the one place you can heal after exploring and fighting through the level, you will see the panel again, something I missed through my first playthrough. Also while exploring, you will see a suspicious space in the wall. With your newfound examine ability and nothing to lose, you click it, and apparently it's a door. But the door is locked. The door teaches you two things. One, that there is gonna be some secret doors, and two, Shodan locks doors. Later, you'll find the cyborg conversion chamber and its lever. You tried to flip the switch, but Shodan locked it. You recall an audio log talking about cameras, and the ceiling is low enough for you to see those blocks in the corner moving back and forth, which gets your attention. You give them a whack, and the pop-up says security is at 98%. You whack the other, and it goes down to 96. You try to flip the switch again, and it works. It says cyborg conversion cancelled, but you don't really know what that means. Well, I didn't. You continue to go down the hallway and make it to the CPU room, which have the same color scheme as the cameras. You break one, and security goes down by a lot. But then you die because Shodan throws a bunch of robots at you. But not to worry, cyborg conversion was a respawn point. So it teaches another 5 things. The switch you flipped was a respawn point, cameras bring down security, CPUs bring down security by a lot, bringing down security unlocks certain things other than doors, and this game is not afraid to throw everything at you to kill you. Now that you've learned all of this, you're ready to explore the whole game. So overall, designing a good game is very much about both teaching and testing the player, and also player action anticipation, making success feel more self-achieved than following instructions. Being able to create scenarios that we triumph over with our own abilities is a big challenge with how many types of personalities there are and how many problems a human imagination can create. Now that all of the kissing up is out of the way, I want to point out the glaring flaw that video games have, and that's interactivity. Yes, I said that's what makes them great, but also the drawback is that some people just don't want to experience some things. Older, timid people won't want to play a survival horror filled with zombies rushing at them, or a competitive shooter where a gunner could be hiding around every corner, while young or hyperactive people won't want to play a serene walking simulator or read too many words in a text adventure. Games broaden its audience, but also strongly restricts those who are too far from their target audience. When it's something like a book, you can simply read it, but dislike it, because all you're doing is reading. But with video games, you experience it firsthand and have to take action. And it's harder to move than to watch someone move. Because of that, if you're gonna choose a game yourself or recommend one, you have to choose carefully of which one you choose, or it'll leave a bad taste for the genre, or maybe all of video games if they're that new. I just want more people to play video games, and I don't want people to focus on just one type of genre, which is mostly shooters and action games. There is too much variety that is untapped potential because the target audience always wants over-the-top excitement. All other arts, visual, music, movies, and books, and even board and puzzle games, have fans of all ages and backgrounds, while video games are mostly between new adults to kids, and most of them just play mainstream games. Playing a game can bring about a new type of excitement within you. Playing some sport or exploring a forest has their own feel, but so do video games. There's no other feeling like exploring a new world, either alone or with a buddy, that video games can give. It is a unique art style that can immerse us all and help bond people of all kinds together, and I hope people will eventually realize that. Also, I'd like video games to be more respected as a profession. Not only do they take great effort to be able to tie sound, music, art, and story with gameplay to make conflicts more personal, they also tackle mature themes of moral versus personal desire, questioning the surface level of perception that we're given, internal conflict, tapping our own internal curiosities, action to triumph over our own given path of failure, and the contrast between our own nature and what is truly the right thing to do. Video games have been presented as being for the young and only to consist of brain-rotting flashy action. But that's only because the things we've been presented are all we bother to know about. So I want to recommend some games to try to persuade those who desire mature topics, those who like simple and engaging games that promote brain activity, and also those who think their hobbies don't connect with video games. Tetris. Everybody loves Tetris. Minesweeper. A simple puzzle game for everyone. But because no one knows the rules, here's a quick rundown. The numbers mean how many bombs are beside, above, below, and diagonal to it. If you think one is a bomb, then right-click to mark it. Challenge yourself to see how fast you can complete medium or intermediate, but never do expert. If you like reading books, then The Darkroom is a great story-based game to play in your browser. So here's a quick intro. You're freezing. This dark, cold room saps the life within you. At your feet is a lifeless fire. Desiring to live, you kindle the fire, bringing light and warmth within the room. But then, in stumbles a ragged stranger who falls into the corner. A fantastic story that's a complete roller coaster of emotions that I recommend everyone to play. But if you want something short, then Drowning in Problems by Notch is one that's quick to the point, easy, and just oppresses you. If you're a musician, then download Osu, which is a rhythm game that has many songs to choose from, and many game types. Though it's mostly Eastern songs, there's still plenty of Western songs to play. But if you don't like any of the songs from Osu, then Rhythm Heaven is a good alternative, but you'd have to buy it. And a Nintendo handheld. If you like to draw, then Let'sDraw.it is a fun browser game to play with friends, where you and your friends vote for what picture the group will draw, and after, you vote either good or bad for each drawing. And I guess Pinturalo 2 is the closest to getting Draw My Thing back, since iSketch is still dead. Aside from Osu, you can play all of these on your browser on your computer for free. They're all also available on the Play Store, but some of them you need to pay for. Maybe the App Store too. Also, Drowning in Problems is only on browser, and Rhythm Heaven is only Nintendo. So that's all the recommendations I have for now. I'm working on another video for just recommendations, explaining each genre so that you might find one and be interested. I'm going to try and keep my personal opinion out of it, so it's not just some biased list of things I like. I want to list games that I feel are easy to get into and that everyone can enjoy. So some of the games I list I might have not played and just heard good things about. Hey, if you made it this far, then thanks. I really appreciate you tolerating me and my sloppy, unprofessional, elitist rant. There was pretty much no structure, I just wrote down what I thought, but I hope I got the point across. Some parts I sound really nervous, and some I sound more confident, depending on whether I decide to rewrite something. The intro was pretty weak, and the story section feels pretty limited. I honestly have no idea what I'm doing, or how to do this. I'll try to improve in the future, if I actually keep doing this. I want to try and help people appreciate games more. But, anyways, thanks for listening. Until next time. If there is a next time. Probably not. Later, Gator.